All right. Sorry, I'm just pulling up my agenda. All right, so I'd like to call to order the Mass Transit Commission meeting for Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. It's 6:03. We can skip to appearances, and we have Justin, Sturenberg from Madison Metro. How did I do?
That was pretty good, actually.
Okay, all right, great. All right, I'll let you take it away.
All right, great. So thank you all for having me. I appreciate giving me a chance to talk today. So I'm Justin Sturenberg. I'm the general manager at Metro Transit for Madison and other partners in the region. Just a little bit about me. I've been here since May of 2020. So I've been all pandemic for me. I started in what now is the early days of the pandemic. At that point, we thought it was close to over, right? Yeah, so I came from Indianapolis, where I was responsible for all the planning, capital projects, and kind of budgeting and new initiatives for Indigo, the transit agency there. And so, come to Madison, and we have a lot of balls in the air, a lot of things that we're working on and working hard to advance all of those. There's one major project that I want to talk to you a little bit about, and how it might interface or might not with Monona, and just kind of talk through what we see as a potential opportunity, I think, for mutual benefit. So I will share my screen. Can you all see that? Okay. So first, just to give you a little bit of background, we here at Metro are a City of Madison department, but we have partnership agreements with 7 other entities, actually 8, I'm sorry. So 4 surrounding cities, Fitchburg, Verona, Middleton, and Sun Prairie, the Madison School District, MMSD, UW Health Hospital, Madison College, and then UW Madison is our largest partner. Obviously, they have all of the campus routes that run through campus, and we at Metro operate all of those. The way those contracts work generally is that we share in actual proportional costs. So we determine what the total cost for the Metro system is, and then we determine proportionally how many hours are spent serving each jurisdiction, and then divide up that total cost proportionally. A relatively new structure that we've implemented or in the process of implementing is to create an operating reserve account that can guard against fluctuations year to year, as well as changes one partner makes that might influence other partners, things like that, so that partners can budget with confidence going well into the future, and not worry about costs changing year to year, because that has been a concern previously when we're just straight up splitting costs. We estimate what the costs are going to be and what the service is going to be, and then at the end of the year, we tally that up, and it may be slightly different than that, and that in the past has resulted in unforeseen bills to partners, which obviously is not taken very well, and is not a position that we want to be in. And so I'm really happy. I've been working for over a year actually on getting this new operating reserve system in place, and we're actually in the process of executing those contracts right now. So and then I put this slide in here, but obviously you all know this already, but just the way transit works in Monona, my understanding is that there was an agreement with Metro many years ago. I don't know any details of that or why it was ended, but what I do know is obviously you all contract with a private operator to run specialized service, peak hour service into downtown Madison, as well as a shared ride shuttle within Monona, and I know that budget is around $250,000 a year. We also Metro runs routes through Monona, and for the most part, don't open the doors. So Those routes are not intended to serve Monona. Monona just happens to be in the middle of two different places within Madison that we're trying to get to. I think the one exception is that the Walmart area, we do serve that area because a lot of folks from Madison need to get there. So that's kind of the current status. But we have a big project underway right now called the network redesign. And so our goal with that project is to basically redraw the entire route network for Metro. For those of you who are familiar with the Metro system, it is revolving around 4 transfer points in north, south, east, and west. Essentially forces transfers to anyone who lives outside of that ring of transfer points to get really anywhere they need to go. And we feel that as the city is continuing to grow, that model no longer really works. And so we are redesigning this network with much more direct, less confusing routes, with hopefully faster travel times and fewer transfers. And also, we've historically run a lot of peak hour only service. And so we're trying to spread that out a little bit to other parts of the day and the week. And that is borne out actually in our ridership since COVID has been very interesting how it's come back. Our midday and evening and weekend ridership is almost back to 2019 levels. We're within 10% of our ridership in those times of day. The majority of our ridership that's down, and we're still down about 20%, 25% overall compared to 2019. But almost all of that loss is within the peak hour. So those folks who were commuting for kind of 9 to 5 office jobs or university jobs, and they either found other ways, or they're working from home or whatever else that's made that no longer desirable for them. So, and we're actually seeing similar results in traffic patterns. Daily traffic counts on East Washington, for example, are almost back to normal on a daily perspective, but the peak hour is still down. So that traffic has come back, but it's more dispersed throughout the day. And we think that will really, assuming that trend continues, which we think it will to some extent, it gives us an opportunity to provide better service throughout the entire day and the weekends in the Metro system. And then the plan is to implement this service, this service change in the summer of 2023. So we're about a year and a half out from implementing it. But what I wanted to talk with you all about is that as we're going through the network design, we have a route in that looks like this. And it right now is ending at approximately Cottage Grove and Dempsey in Madison. We think there is an opportunity here to do something like this, where that route could be extended into Monona and pick up much of the service area that your current peak hour service provides. And doing this, we can do this quite efficiently in a way that provides direct travel from Monona into downtown Madison and UW, and yet still serves Madison. So, in this case, we would only expect Monona to pay for the portion that's in Monona. And so it may result in some efficiencies for you. The other key thing here is that this is an all-day route. This is not just a peak hour only route. So we do expect this route to be running once an hour all day long. And then, so consequently, if we did extend it into Monona, it would likely run all day long. So kind of a summary of what this opportunity is, what we think it is to be able to provide an all-day service into Monona with Metro service, a full-size bus. It would come with required paratransit service, which is a requirement for us through the Americans with Disabilities Act. That service would be available to anyone who is eligible. It is not available or it is not open to everyone. It's open to anyone with a qualified disability that prevents them from using the normal fixed route bus. But the benefit here is that for those folks that do qualify, they would be able to travel anywhere in the entire region to whatever doctor's appointment or anything that they might need. As I mentioned, we've got another route that's just passing through Monona without, it's not designed to serve Monona, but assuming that if Monona were a partner for us, we feel confident that we could start opening those doors and serve bus stops in Monona just while we're passing through. And we would not expect Monona to pay for that, again, because of the service is not designed to serve Monona. It's really designed to serve Madison, but while we're passing through, why not at least offer the service to folks that are there. We do think that this would be accommodated within your current budget. Basically, you would pay us instead of the contractor, but it would be, we feel, actually our calculations come up to something closer to 200,000, maybe 225. But we, as I mentioned, that operating reserve account, that's something that other partners have built up over time. And so I think it would make sense if we did decide to go down this path to keep you pegged at that 250 mark, and that would allow you to build up that operating reserve. And then again, could be implemented with our overall network redesign in the summer of 2023. So yeah, that's really it. I just wanted to, I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk through this with you. As I said, I think that there's, it certainly has the potential to be mutually beneficial for all of us. I think, we, having Monona kind of in the middle of Madison and not being served is, always been a little bit of a challenge for us. And we get lots of questions from the public about why service doesn't stop in Monona. And I think, we direct them your way, of course, but I think for legibility of transit in the region and kind of regional connectivity, I think this could potentially be a big benefit. I do think that in some of my discussions with Mark and Mayor O'Connor, I can see one potential concern is that that paratransit only being available to those who are eligible for it and not just to everyone. Certainly there's an opportunity to have some additional service in Monona to meet that purpose, but that would not meet our ADA requirements. And so we would have to be a little bit careful around that. So. But yeah, with that, that's all I've got. But I would be happy to talk through any questions, gauge your interest or lack of interest, and just anything we can do to further the conversation, we're happy to do.
I have a couple of questions, but in just for the sake of time and making sure that we respect Diane's presence here, Diane Mickelbank is our director of the Senior Center in Monona. And she has some specific questions or some specific concerns related to the paratransit. We currently have a Lyft service that's sort of like Uber for seniors. And I think there's a lot of concern about the navigability of the application or the process of getting the paratransit to service various seniors or people in Monona who are able-bodied, but maybe older and just not have the access or the wherewithal to kind of figure that process out. So Diane, I want to just make sure we open up the floor to you with specific questions. And then obviously everyone else can kind of dive in with what they would like to ask or share.
Thanks, Molly. I'm really in no rush, so I'm here for the duration. But so if I'm understanding this presentation, the one route that you proposed, that's it. It's one route that you'll do continuous throughout the day, which really only goes to, it doesn't go anywhere near Owen Road or where any of the senior housing is, right?
Yeah, so, and this was, sorry, I should have specified that. This was just a sample. That route could kind of go wherever you designate it to go. The one caveat is that it needs to get basically from Cottage Grove and Dempsey down into Monona and back within 30 minutes to not add another bus to the rotation, which certainly would add costs. So If you have other ways that you want that route to go, that's certainly within reason. I just kind of drew it as a sample, but yeah, that is an important clarification. And I don't know exactly where the senior center is, but it would really just depend on how far it is from that point and whether or not we can get there and back in 30 minutes.
Okay. And would there be actual bus stops on this route that would be created? Or just like a sign on the side of the street where people would be out in the elements to catch the bus?
So ultimately, that's one portion of the partner agreements is that bus stops in partner cities are maintained by that city, and so ultimately, the extent to which you want to upgrade those stops to have shelters and other things would be up to you. But yeah, typically Metro does not maintain the bus stops in other cities.
My only other major question is, so if this does become a thing, you'll probably have a huge influx of applicants, and it looks like your application process is a bit lengthy with, it looks like maybe pre-pandemic, it was actually an in-person visit. What's the process now, and how timely might someone be approved for paratransit?
So we're moved back to a hybrid model where we're doing some in person and some not. That process is usually relatively quick, within a week or so. Certainly, if there's a big influx all at once, that may delay things a little bit. But this is not a months-long process by any stretch. It's a relatively short in-person assessment where we have to verify that a person does have a disability that prevents them from using paratransit service, and that may be that they have a physical or intellectual disability that prevents them from using it at all, or they have a mobility challenge and they live far enough away from it that they can't reasonably get to a bus stop.
So
is it a one and done? I mean, once you've made your application for the paratransit service, you can use it forever. I mean, forever, basically, or would you need to do it before every time you need the service, or how would that work?
No, there is a recertification process that is typically every 3 to 5 years. So once you've done it, then you might have to do it again in 3 to 5 years. That's dependent on what it actually is, though. In some cases, your disability is temporary, and then that approval is conditional upon a certain amount of time, and then you have to come back in if the challenge continues. Others, if you're permanently wheelchair bound, that won't change, right? So often when that recertification process comes in, you just have to submit a form that says, yes, I'm still interested in this service. And that you don't have to go through the certification process again.
Well, is that done because of federal requirements? Or is that a Metro thing? Does that just mean because you get federal money? I assume that's part of it. Is that the reason why?
Yeah, so we are subject to many federal requirements. I think honestly, if we could go beyond this in terms of providing this type of service to everyone, the challenge is it doesn't scale. We do 13 million rides a year, and if everyone tried to use this type of service throughout the entire region, we would just be completely overwhelmed, both in demand and cost. So that's why it is necessary for us to limit it to just those who qualify for it per federal requirements. But yeah, there's a certain level of minimum federal requirements, and then we certainly could go over them. But like I said, it'd be a very cost-wise, it'd be very prohibitive, and there's no way we'd have enough staff to do all that. So.
And Justin, just one more thing from my end. So the application process, even though like it's a week to process on your end, I'm not sure if anybody on the Transit Commission has taken a look at it, but it looks like they need to actually have their doctor sign it. So they actually need to get the application, fill it out, make a doctor's appointment, get the doctor to approve it before they send that in. Unless that's changed, but that's what I found online.
Sorry. Yeah, that is correct. I mean, it is not a simple form that you fill out, and there is a fairly rigorous assessment involved.
We get
Sorry. So yeah, it is a bit more rigorous than just filling out a form between the doctor's certification and as well as that in-person assessment.
Thank you.
And I just have one question. I know we kind of talked before we had some meetings, but we would need to figure out a map, say, I know you drew the map, it's just to show us kind of what it would be. They said it'd be 30 minutes, we had to start from basically Cottage Grove Road back to Cottage Grove Road, is that how it would be?
Yeah, that's right. But keeping in mind that the buses don't move quite as fast as a car, so
Right.
we have to build in some time for the bus stops and everything. So I would say if you're comparing it to Google Maps travel time, you'd probably want to keep it under 20 minutes.
What? Sorry.
You probably want to keep it under 20 minutes in just what you drive in a car.
Hey, Justin, I know you showed, when you showed that route, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, when you showed that route, it said draft C, C as in cow. Is there another route that does run along Broadway?
Yeah, so there is another route that I was just showing you, the one route that might extend
Right.
kind of into the core of Monona.
Yeah,
There's another route that's currently the Route 16 that kind of runs along Broadway and up Flom Road into the La Follette High School area. And we expect that route or something similar to it to continue in the future. And so that's the route that I was mentioning, that along Broadway and then the southern portion of Monona Drive that currently we run what we call closed door service, where we don't stop. We could, if Monona decided to put bus stops in there, we could serve those stops.
okay,
And again, that route runs every 30 minutes, 7 days a week. So that route is a fairly high level of service.
Along that line, there's also the 38 route and the 11 route. And admittedly, I haven't dug into the maps on the redesign. Could you just briefly kind of summarize what the changes are for those routes 11, 16, and 38, which skirt the perimeter of Monona right now?
Yeah, so the 16 will continue in some form. It will be slightly different, but in the section that interacts with Monona would stay largely the same. The other routes likely will just go away, and we'll be serving the park and ride that's further out along Broadway, serving that in a different way. And actually, that would be another branch of this C route that's coming around Atwood. And so basically, if I pull that back up, so this section of the route will actually be every 15 minutes. So, at the corner of Monona Drive and Cottage Grove, like that service will be very strong, bus every 15 minutes all day long. And then when it gets to Dempsey, two of the buses would, so every other bus would continue straight out Cottage Grove Road, kind of all the way past the interstate. One of them would head south to serve the industrial parks and the Owl Creek area, as well as the park and ride, Dutch Mill Park and Ride. And then that's the fourth bus every hour that right now don't have anywhere to send it. And so it would just kind of turn around at this point and go back into town. So that's the one that fourth bus an hour is the one that we would propose to send into Monona.
This is super exciting. If I may, I've got two other questions for you. I think more specifically asking about kind of these opportunities for this fantastic collaboration. So one thing, we heard loud and strong from our transit. We recently did a transit survey of people in Monona about what they want, and kind of two things that really came up in that one is a desire to integrate with the Madison Metro service, specifically around gaining access to evenings and weekend services, and also to create a homogeneous bus pass system. And so I think we've addressed the first point that yes, this would potentially give us expansion of evening and weekend services, but I also wanted to ask explicitly, will we all now be under one bus pass system for the whole community?
Yes. So it would basically at this point, Monona is the only one, all the other cities and entities, the other corporate or other entities that are partners are all, using Metro bus passes. And so bringing Monona into that fold would kind of unify the entire region into that system. One thing I would add, or actually two things I would add, we're in the process of doing a lot of big projects, and one of them or two of them are around technology. And so the first is around real-time bus information and general bus technology for our drivers and for our passengers. We actually are about to sign a contract with a vendor to completely overhaul all of that system. So we'll have access to much better data to give to our partners for internal decision-making, but also for our passengers around real-time information and where the bus is and when to expect it, things like that. But the other piece is fare collection. We're also, our RFP is about to go out to create an entirely new fare system as well. And that would bring everything under an umbrella around an account-based system where folks can just add a balance to their account and then they just tap a card and go. It would start using what's called a fare capping model. So rather than buying a monthly pass up front, let's say that monthly pass is $60. There's a lot of folks that use our system that can't afford to spend $60 at the beginning of each month. And so they instead pay $2 for every ride, even though they use it for all of their daily needs. And so they end up spending $100 in a month because they couldn't afford that $60 on the front end. And so using this fare capping model means that they can just put $60 on their account or put $10 on their account and just tap their card. And once they've ridden 30 times, $2 a ride for $60, then every other ride for the rest of that month is free. And so it really gives that benefit to everyone, regardless of whether or not they can afford to pay that money on the front end. The other thing it does is that it reduces all the decision points, right? Like, especially if you're a visitor or a sometimes user, coming into a system like, do I get a day pass? Do I just pay for one trip? Do I buy a weekly pass? What do I want to do? I just want to try the system. It removes all those decision points. You just put a certain amount of dollars in your account and you tap your card and that's it. You move on. Similarly for mobile payments, we would be integrating with that as well so that your phone can become a transit card. And you can just tap your phone, just like a Google Pay or Apple Wallet or Apple Pay, and move on. But then also, even if you don't want an account, if you don't have a card or you're only using it one time or you're a visitor, you can just use Apple Pay and just pay that $2 in that way. So we think that there's going to be a lot of benefits for everyone with that new system. The other thing we can do is integrate with, UW sponsors all of their students and staff to ride the bus for free. Right now we have to distribute separate passes to them, which they lose, and then university has to maintain and try to figure out which ones to deactivate, and then it's just kind of a mess. We can integrate with their existing proximity readers in their student IDs to just use their student ID as a bus pass. So again, I think both from an administrative side and for a customer convenience side, I think it's going to be a game changer for us. And I'm really excited about it.
Mark, I have a question about finances. We currently get like $143,000 of our budget paid by that grant for transportation. Would we still be eligible for that to pay for the budget that we've got here?
Yes, it's all work. You still have to file if I believe right, Justin, we still file and you guys actually get the aid. But it does do the same process. You file and get the aid. So it's still part of calculation.
Thanks.
Yeah, all of our other partners go through that same process to get the state funding.
Molly, could I ask a question?
Yep.
Justin, I wanted to step back a little bit to what Addie was saying. Now, I have an email from you from October when we were going back and forth about this, where the price you had estimated was based on running on weekdays only between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Is that changed? So it's now weekends as well?
So I do think that budget can accommodate weekends as well.
Okay, and it would be from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on weekends also? Okay,
Yeah, Sundays, it's a little bit different. So our service, I think it would start at 7 on Saturdays and Sunday, and then I think it would start at 7 on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Sunday it ends a little bit earlier. But so it's maybe 7 to 6 on Sunday and 7 to 8 on Saturday.
okay,
Roughly.
all right.
Is that, Mayor O'Connor, is that it for you or?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Great. One of the things that we've talked about as a committee is our desire to see more sustainable forms of transportation, including electric or other hybrid type of buses. Can you fill us in on what Madison Metro is doing sort of in the arena of that, as far as, just trying to, obviously with fewer stops and, these sort of optimized routes will be reducing the gas output, gas consumption. But just wanted to ask a little bit about your sustainability initiatives and other sort of environmental efforts that you're working on as you make all of these changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I'm sure you know, it's a huge priority for the city of Madison. It's a huge priority for me and for our agency. We at Metro have 3 electric buses right now. They are in our garage, going through final checks to hopefully go into service soon. Although we're probably going to wait a few more months so that we're not implementing electric buses for the first time in January in Wisconsin. But certainly by the spring, we expect those to be in service. I actually came from Indianapolis, where we built a bus rapid transit line that was the first all electric in the country. And at one point had the largest electric fleet in the country. So it's something that I'm very in tune with, but their electric buses are fantastic. They do have challenges that you need to plan for and overcome. But we are moving in that direction for sure. And actually our bus rapid transit line that we are building obviously won't touch Monona, but East Wash through campus and then kind of out Mineral Point Road will be mostly electric, if not all. And that will actually be 41 buses. And those will be 60-foot buses. So the longer articulated bus with the accordion in the middle. And so nearly at that point, nearly a fifth of our fleet will be electric when that's implemented. And at this point in our budget, starting in 2025, we will not buy another diesel bus. Now, I say all of that with a caveat that we cannot risk the service quality for going to electric buses. We need to be, the technology isn't quite there yet to where we can just replace a diesel bus with an electric bus and expect it to do the exact same thing. And so, we have to, right now we basically have to buy 1.5 electric buses for every diesel bus. And until that technology catches up and we can have the range to support things, it's going to be really cost prohibitive to move in that direction fully. But that's kind of why we planned around that 2025 benchmark, because that's when we feel that the industry will be there, that we can just kind of plug and play a diesel electric bus for a diesel bus. If that isn't the case, you know, we all thought we'd be driving autonomous cars by now if you'd asked 2017 us. And so things tend to move slower than we thought. But certainly if things progress slower than we anticipate, we'll have to revisit that. But ultimately it's our goal to move entirely in the other direction. But at the end of the day, the most efficient bus is the one people ride. And so we can't sacrifice our service quality just to go electric, because there have been challenges where people have tried to go too far beyond what the technology allows at the time. And it results in, you know, buses that break down more often, and you know, frequency that has to be reduced because we don't have enough buses and things like that. So we're being very mindful of moving to electric, but doing so in a way that doesn't harm our service quality.
I have one other question. Just going back to your closed door service on Broadway. I'm thinking about the stretch between Monona Drive and Stoughton Road, so real close to the conventional park and ride. If we wanted to add one stop there on that stretch of East Broadway, would there be an additional cost, and is that even a possibility?
So I believe in the new service pattern that a bus will go across Broadway and then up Monona Drive to Flom Road. And I don't believe we plan to have anything between Stoughton Road and Monona Drive on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
And so certainly if there is a bus running there and you added a stop, then yeah, that's no problem. But to send a bus there, if we don't already have one planned, then yeah, that certainly would be an extra cost.
Because we do have, you know, two very large clinics there, and we have a new low income housing or workforce housing property that's in the works there as well. So it's, you know, we have a major you know, retail center there at the corner of Monona Drive and Broadway, as you know. So just thoughts on that, if you know, if you were ever to consider putting a bus on that stretch. It's, boy, what is it, a half mile? It's not very long, I know, but it could be an essential piece of service.
Sure.
For us.
Yeah.
I had one other area that we haven't brought up, and that's the schools. You had said early, Justin, that you have a collaboration with Madison Metropolitan School District. And of course, I pre-pandemic remember seeing all of kind of the school day routes that would get run. I myself don't have children, so I'm not as familiar with how the kids in Monona get around. And I guess I just kind of wanted to bring up, you know, what's that current status in Monona, and are there pluses or minuses to this proposal?
So, you know, I guess the short answer is I don't know that this would impact Monona school transportation in any way directly. I guess just to answer your general question about how that works. So we run what we call specialized school service, or just school Dodgers that serve middle and high schools along special routes that are really intended to serve the schools, but we are a public transit agency. We cannot prohibit who rides, or, you know, we cannot limit who rides our bus. So technically those routes are available to everyone, but obviously they really only go to the schools. So 99% of the people that ride them are students and staff at the school. But yeah, so we provide that service for MMSD. They pay for it. It is a public service, however, and it has been very successful. And actually, we're in the process of, you know, a few years ago, MMSD decided they wanted to change the bell times for their middle schools to be later. And we were not able to accomplish that because basically the way that we operate is that we send one bus out, it does a middle school, and then it does a high school, and then it comes back. And they wanted middle and high schools to be at the same time. And so they decided to transfer the middle schools to the yellow school bus service. That has not gone according to plan. The yellow bus cannot find appropriate staff to do it. And actually many of the students and parents don't like it either. They very much relied on that Metro service, and it better enabled those students to get about the rest of the city for other purposes too. And so their board is meeting here in January, potentially to send all of that back to Metro, the middle schools. And so that may be a change that's coming back to us. But in terms of Monona schools directly, unless there was a separate agreement with Monona schools to run a similar service, I wouldn't expect anything to change.
I think that's a good question, Addie. I guess I don't get the impression, again, I also don't have children, but I guess I get the impression that we have sufficient service through our current yellow busing system. Christy, do you have any comment on that? Just based on, because are your kids both still in Monona, or are they at the Cottage Grove level now?
I've got one in each. So I've got one here in Monona, one in Cottage Grove. It's definitely been a struggle. They are struggling with staff. I know the driver on my daughter's bus was just fired. And so I have a feeling they're struggling there as well. What's happening is actually, so my kids have the same driver. My son's bus goes through, he drops at Winnequa, then he starts his Cottage Grove route. So then he goes around and scoops up all the kids and then takes them out to Cottage Grove. There have been, some with the firing of that driver, it happened like last week. There's been some late buses and some transitions, but they're struggling with staff as well. So I think it might be prudent of us to talk to the district about this idea.
I think the issue there is that the school district, we have schools in Cottage Grove and Monona, and kids from both communities going to both communities for school. So whoever the bus system has to run, and I don't know if you don't have any kind of agreement with Cottage Grove, do you?
No.
At this point? So I don't know. I mean, you could certainly ask the school district, but I don't know. I think they have Nelson Bus Services who they contract with. Is that right, Chrissy?
That's correct, yeah. Justin, do you envision talking with Cottage Grove about a bus service? Because I know they have expressed a desire for some type of transit service.
I think it's certainly a possibility, but we don't have any immediate plans to. Right now, I think, obviously Monona, we're talking to you. McFarland has raised, at least they want to explore the option. I've not specifically heard from Cottage Grove, but yeah, that's certainly something we're open to. Especially, we've been focusing on trying to get our existing partner agreements kind of cleaned up, because I think they were, like I mentioned, there was a lot of challenges with them historically, and I'm glad that I feel like on very solid footing now, on which we can build and expand. So I expect to have more of those conversations going forward. Frankly, the other challenge for us is that we've been very space constrained. We have our garage on East Washington was built for 160 buses, and we've been operating 220 out of there. We couldn't add another bus. We've been, as an organization, trying to buy another facility for what I've been told, about 20 years. This past summer, we were finally successful, and we bought a building, a former FedEx building out by the airport, that nearly doubles our capacity. And so that will enable us to expand more and more regionally.
Mark, I don't know if this question is better saved for later when we're talking about first student, but I'm wondering if, given potential savings in the budget, and what seems, because this seems like a pretty dream collaboration, except in the exception of the lift, the need for our senior transportation. I'm wondering if there's a possibility to contract specifically just for the lift, and if that's a conversation that we can explore with First Student, or if there are other options that would accommodate that need in addition to pursuing this collaboration. Because it's hard to say no, given all of the, I mean, and Christy, Elder Gopher raises a good point too, with that additional stop that I think would be pretty well needed in Stoughton at Broadway, but otherwise, I mean, this seems to check all of the boxes of our continuous conversations and, you know, the input that we've solicited from the community. So I guess that one is more for Mark, or I don't know, Justin, if you have an idea typically if bus, you know, contracts ever look like just a single specific small service. But that's a big question, I think that we would need to answer before we proceed with anything without having the certainty of accommodating our senior population.
I don't have an answer right now. It'd be one of those things, we have to get the numbers and run it all, you know, get Madison's numbers and take a look at what her budget number is. Do a lot of comparisons, you know, we haven't got to that point yet. So I think that is one of the next steps we would have to do. I don't have an answer, I guess. I mean, you can always do it, but it's going to cost what that cost is. If it's, you would have to find that out. I don't have that answer. I don't know if First Student would do it, Badger Bus, whoever, but it's something we'd have to research more. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Would you really need the lift if you've got access to the 16 route every 15 minutes?
I guess it'd be more Diane.
So we have seniors who live in Monona who have no transportation. And part of the reason that they moved to Monona is because of the transportation services that we provide. A vast majority of them, I don't think, would be eligible for the Madison paratransit system. Like, you know, Justin talked about, it's a rigorous application process. Some of our seniors could probably, like, I don't know, Justin, if you have statistics on how many people apply and how many actually are accepted. But we will likely have seniors moving out of our area because the alternative for seniors is you need to walk to a bus stop. And I don't see Monona building shelters for our seniors. So here they are with their walkers. They're on the street, you know, sides of the road waiting for a bus. If you consider where our senior housing is located, Monona Meadows is at the bottom of the hill. So if the bus stop is on Monona Drive, do you want your, you know, grandparents and parents walking up to Monona Drive to catch the bus? The reality of our seniors, if using this system is, you know, I don't see it working for them. Certainly is not what we have now. So I see a big, you know, these surveys are great that you guys did, but they're very virtual, very much online. Our senior population didn't have great access to those surveys. So I guess just keep in mind, I don't see you know, a senior representative on this commission. So just keep those seniors in mind. This will be a detriment to them in a lot of ways.
And to answer that,
I would just say that we review the ridership report, and we do talk to our drivers and have a pretty good idea of the quality of the service and the versatility of the service. And we would definitely not take any make any choice to take away that service lightly or without, you know, making sure that we provided an alternative. We're pretty proud of the way that we serve the seniors. So don't think that we're not thinking of that group of our citizens. It's, you know, it's important to us.
And to answer the question around additional contractors, so we as Metro don't operate anything in that would call this a dial-a-ride service, more of a taxi type service. We don't operate anything other than paratransit, specific eligible. However, some of our partners do. Sun Prairie, for example, has their own what they call a shared ride taxi service that I think operates much in the same way that your Lyft service does. And they pay for that separately from our contractual agreement with them. And I think it's relatively inexpensive. And I don't know exactly how all of that works, but if that's something that you want to know more about, I can certainly connect you with somebody.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Justin.
I think Fitchburg is trying to do the same thing. Unfortunately, I have no idea how much that system would cost in Monona, and so it's hard to know whether or not that could fit in the budget or not.
When you say relatively inexpensive in regard to the Sun Prairie service, do you have, like, can you give us an idea of what that is, or do you just like a ballpark?
Yeah, I couldn't even venture a guess. But I mean, to give you a frame of, I know it's less than they pay us, and they pay us, 500,000 roughly for their fixed route service.
Less than $500,000.
But also Sun Prairie is also quite a bit larger geographically.
Right.
Our Lyft service probably makes up the majority of our service hours, doesn't it, Mark? It would be half of what we currently pay.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have the exact hours. But is it from 10 to 2 or something like that? 9 to 2:30 or 3? This will be the hours. But right now we're back at the level, basically pre-COVID right now.
So one thing that I have not been able to confirm is whether or not Monona could opt out of our paratransit service and instead continue your own version like Lyft within Monona, and in that case only serve Monona, not serve those regional trips. I've been trying to get clarification from that from the Federal Transit Authority, and I haven't gotten a clear answer. But I'm continuing to run that down just so you're aware.
And that would result in a savings on the part of our contract with you that potentially we could continue with another provider.
Right. So, our initial estimates for the fixed route only, so the regular bus would be around 150. And so and our estimate for the paratransit was about 75,000 a year. So, certainly if that were allowable, and again, I don't know if it is, then that would leave that money, instead of spending it on our paratransit service, for you to provide your own internal service to Monona. A big part of the cost for us in paratransit is, we aren't just moving someone from 2 different places within Monona. Oftentimes it's somebody going from, all the way across the metro area, right? So they're going to a doctor's appointment on, West Town Mall. And so those trips get quite expensive very fast.
Timeline for this, I know it starts in 2023, I think. But I imagine you guys start marketing it and start doing stuff like that. What is your guys' timeline for enrollment?
I would say we're going to start writing schedules probably this summer, or this coming summer. So it certainly would be good to have an agreement in place by then, if that's something we want to go down the path of. Because this is a big lift to redesign the entire network, and so it's going to take us a while to schedule it all out and communicate it to folks. And we're going to have armies of people out just talking to folks at bus stops and trying to help them understand what the new system looks like. So there'll be quite a bit of lead time to that.
Do we have any other questions for Justin, team? No. If you don't mind just kind of continuing to pursue that piece about the paratransit and potentially connect us with the Sun Prairie, the shared ride taxi service, some information about that, I think that would be wonderful as a follow-up. But otherwise on our end, we'll keep the conversation going. I'm sure we'll meet again And we will do our exploration with first student or current contractor about different possibilities with the lift service. So
Sounds good.
thank you so much for being here and for that. I think this conversation is very exciting, just the fact that we're having it and all of these potential possibilities. So yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Justin.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a request. If you have an updated draft Route 16 map that you could share with us, or your presentation, we would appreciate it.
Sure, I can definitely send the presentation. The route map is in development and
Okay.
will be released in January as part of
Okay.
that thing. And I probably can't.
Fair enough. It's only 1 month
It
away.
looks like scribbles on a map right now, so.
He could send it to you, Doug, but then he'd have to kill you. So I don't know if you, that's a cost too great for us here on the commission. So
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Molly, I don't know with Diane on here, if you want to skip down to the new business, I just put Madison Metro routes, just so we can talk about this.
Yeah. Look, do we need like a motion to do this out of order or anything?
No, it's just a,
Let's just go ahead and skip down to item number 6, new business, the Madison Metro routes.
just feedback or anything, or my concern is, I think we kind of touched on it, is the list system. We got to dig into the numbers to see where we're at, but Dan, better, but you talked to Fitchburg. Fitchburg is trying to do what our system is.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing Mark.
So Diane, I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I gave a call to Jill McCone at the Fitchburg Senior Center today because they are considered one of the partners that Madison has talked about that they work with. And, you know, Jill basically said, right now there is no way for any senior to access the senior center because their route just goes like on that PD or Cheryl, you know, it doesn't go anywhere near their senior center. So she said, unless you independently drive yourself, you do not have access to the senior center. So I was describing what our lift was like. And she said, Diane, that's exactly what we're trying to get here in Fitchburg. So she said, don't let that go, fight for that. That's what our seniors need. And so I just share that because there are these other partners, but as far as from a senior standpoint, these other partners aren't finding that they're helpful to their senior populations.
Thank you, Diane. And I'm glad you got in touch. I know you said you probably would reach out, but I think that's very useful information.
I guess our other issue is, so if we were to go with the Madison Metro partnership, it definitely improves upon our express service and adds service that we don't have. It doesn't do anything for the lift, really, based on the location of the seniors, where they live and where they go. And so we would probably still have to have our own contract with for a student or somebody like that, which is scary because every year we get fewer bids on our RFP. And we only got 2 this year. The year before, I think we got 3 or 4, or the 5 years before we got 3 or 4. I don't know. So, it's like, will there even be a provider out there in 4 more years to do that for us? That's just one of my worries about the lift and express, and why I like this concept, at least in part because it's bringing back some serious stability.
I wonder if things would look different as far as bids if it were just this small service. I mean, given that a big thing is we'd need, probably one driver, right, for the lift versus, because that's where we're experiencing a lot of difficulty and where it sounds like Madison Metro is not necessarily is with, driver shortages.
This might be the point at which the city just buys a bus, hires a driver, creates well, you need a couple of staff, probably for dispatch.
I mean, I would absolutely do that job. So if you're asking, the answer is yes, I will quit my job and do
Do
that.
all that for 75,000 a year?
If you think that I make any more than that in my current position,
I'm
Mary,
talking about dispatchers and buying a bus.
I'll
and-
split it. It's fine. I would take a pay cut for this. I love to drive, love working with the seniors. Perfect.
But I need to leave, but I just want to say something. I think, and this is regarding the express more than the lift, but I think before you go a lot further, you need to do more thinking about just where this bus would go. I mean, he had that little loop, but if you're talking a total of maybe 20 minutes, that loop doesn't go anywhere near Shadow Lane and that whole area of Monona. It only, and I know he didn't really even time anything, but I think you definitely need to take a closer look at just, if you're only going down, Dean Avenue and making a loop and coming up Owen or something, you're missing a lot of the city with the express service too. So that's definitely, we need to take a closer look at what the possibilities are. And I don't know if that means you guys going out and driving around and timing various things or what, but, and obviously then we would have to have some public input and showing people maps and having them come and, see what they say. So those are my thoughts. I have to go, but I appreciate you all and all the time you have already put in on this, and I'm sure you will be putting on this, but it definitely is something we need to consider because the price is a lot cheaper than what they've ever told us before. So
Thanks, Mary.
I think Justin is very motivated to get us, he's new leadership, and I think, he's motivated. So anyway, thank you all.
Yeah, they weren't giving us costs like this before, so this is new.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I think with the, we know the blue wave is landing and it's only going to continue to grow. I think there's a real business opportunity and there's obviously need for a service like Metro for the senior population around the region. Hopefully through conversations that we have with people we know in that industry, maybe something will come up in the next, few years, but that's a really tough spot to be in. I mean, we can't lose that service. That service is really critical for our population. But boy, it's one of those things, we want all things. So really tough.
We're gonna have to pay for it. They're just gonna have to vote to give us more money in our budget.
There you go.
Well,
Thank
and
you.
for a lot of people that live in Monona, this is affecting their pocketbook, right? Because one of the things we've heard about why people don't ride Monona Transit is there are sometimes difficulties buying bus passes. And major employers across the city are, people are losing money out by not being able to use their free bus pass from State of Wisconsin, University, American Family, Epic, et cetera. So for, I think, a lot of people that take the express, this is actually a way that they can save a little bit of money even by relying on, an employer provided benefit to work in home transit, rather than having to pay that additional cash price for the Monona flyer, which, speed money, but it sounds like what they're trying to really do here is make it faster to get around town on the bus. Well, unfortunately, achieving that by sacrificing the geographic coverage of the system. It'll go faster places, but it won't go as many places on the periphery of the city, as if I'm understanding like the decisions that they're making about the redesign.
Well, and the other things we've heard are, having to use 2 different bus passes and student use of all of those things. The improved real-time tracking information. all of these things are just like things that we've explicitly expressed, like are lacking in the current express service and the service hours. That's probably the biggest one, you know? And I would say I definitely agree that I would not feel comfortable approving a plan if we didn't have an accommodation such as the lift or a similar service. Because I agree that it is essential. And I do think it is, you know, our most successful component, as Doug mentioned, within our contract with First Student. So yeah, so I think, you know, crunching the numbers, talking with First Student, getting some more information about that piece is going to be pretty critical before we're able to kind of make a more firm decision. But from an outsider's perspective, I would say this pretty much checks almost all the boxes. So it would be hard to, I just hope we can make it work, I guess is the bottom line. It would be hard to turn this down.
I guess my concerns would be, is the city gonna be okay, the big buses going through the city, going down Winnequa, going down Dean, going down some side roads, bus stops in their yards, I just got the negatives.
Who cares?
You know, the bus stops, and yeah, I think the thing is, we really would have to map out that 20-minute ride. Do we start the new development over by, you know, by the White Horse property and start from there, you know, we pick that up, because I don't think that 16 is gonna go down there. So, you know, how do we, you know, we really need a good start in what that 20 minutes would be and what that would look like. And, you know,
Well, we currently spend $13.82 per ride with our annual budget. So if you give 5,000 rides to seniors at $13.80, it's like 75 grand. So if we could find a cab company that would just charge us $13 a ride for every senior trip, we could make it work. You know?
You know, I think that's actually probable and possible, because Sri did just buy the Van Gogh company, which has those old Dodge Caravans, which he's looking to, you know, eventually transition over to electric vehicles. And he's always looking for new opportunities, and that the Van Gogh already serves, I believe it mainly serves the elderly population. Do you know about that, Diane? Or is it's mainly like medical rides? Do you know about the Van Gogh company?
I've heard of the company, but I don't exactly know. I haven't heard of any seniors in Monona using it.
Okay, so yeah, so he acquired that not long ago, and so he's looking to do something with that. So you know, I think if some business person sees there is this demand there and there's a need, you know, someone's going to step up to meet that need.
I think so. Van Gogh, I think formerly was based out of Wanakee. One of my coworkers' partners was the owner, and they sold it. I think it was sold a couple years ago, and now obviously has changed hands again. But I think we don't see it often over here because I think it's primarily based in Madison and sort of that side, you know, like north side. But I do believe, I mean, it is specialized vehicles to accommodate things like wheelchairs or walkers. Typically it is for people with mobility issues or, you know, special needs of some variety. So that's not a bad thought. Something of that nature, I think, could be a potential thing we would like to explore. So.
And I mean, it's thinking that he said that we wouldn't have to decide by summer of 2022. That's, you know, when you think about all we need to decide, that's not that far off. So we would want to really start, you know, getting to work on this by January, I would think, to make these decisions.
Yeah, and I think the first things I need to figure out from them what their actual proposal is and see what that financial impact is. And he's been telling it. He said different numbers from we heard last time, so I need to get it narrowed down. Just remember though, we talk about the lift service currently we have, that's covered by the grants. So the Madison Metro portion, I mean, that would be covered by the grant. Lift service would not be. So you talk about 75,000 now. You know, 58% is covered, or 55% is covered by the grant. It would not. So there's more. I need, you know, there's a lot more financial numbers we need to get this narrowed down, because that will have an impact on the grant.
And I think, yeah, and then even just exploring with first student if it would be a possibility to hang on to that specifically, just as a singular service. I don't know if that would need to be a shared meeting with Madison Metro and first student. Is that weird? Or I don't know how that would work, but I think that conversation needs to happen as well in order for us to move forward. Because I think I would like to stick with first student, given I think our good relationship and the really productive conversations and discussions we had with the representative this fall. I think I'd like to preserve that if it makes sense as a familiar, comfortable service for the seniors, as a, a positive relationship that we've already fostered and developed over a period of years before we would consider looking at other alternatives.
Can I ask a question about money, Molly and Christy? You guys are on the council. You guys have heard all the times that people question the value of our service and how much it costs. Could we get another $100,000 added onto our budget if we were providing like a 3 times better service that ran all day, all week, all week long, all day long, and also served the seniors in the exact service level that they currently expect? Does a highly, a higher performing service justify our higher budget, or is it just like, no, this is the maximum amount of money you can have. You can't have any more. Doesn't matter what you do. Because if that's the case, there's no point in us messing with this. We're not gonna get anywhere if we can't have more money. I don't see it. It's gonna cost more to do it this way, to have 2 services. But it'll be better services,
Yeah, well,
better value.
I don't want to speak for Christy. I'll let you answer. I'll let her answer as well. But I would think that this would be extremely desirable I really feel like this would have a huge impact on ridership increases, accessibility for more people, not seniors, who are interested, because I think, again, a lot of that demand is for those off-peak hours that this would accommodate. And so my feeling is, $100,000 additional ask would be a relative drop in the bucket, given the, I would say, exponential increase in the, just in the quality and that, the scope of the service. So that's just my opinion, but I would think it would be a relatively easy sell, if we were to make that proposal.
I have to agree. I think there would be a large public outcry for it, based on our survey. I think, right now in the spring, half of our city council is going to turn over with the, if I get reelected, then I would maintain my spot, but we could see 2 new council members. So, there's a lot of unknowns, but I would think, yeah, like Molly said, $100,000 is not that much, considering, the enhancements that our residents would receive. I think it could be doable. What do you think, Mark? I would be curious, Mark, because
Yeah, Mark's the money man. Give it to us, Mark. Hit us with it.
the budget is so tight. It's so tight. Like, he would know, like, where would we get it from? Where is that in there? Where, how could that work?
General fund, get that GF.
I mean, it would be a little challenging to, first, I really need to get the numbers from Madison Metro, because I want to see if they would, if they have, because they have all those federal grants, there's a lot of attachments. I assume they have, part of that's going to be, they're going to have to offer that to them, just assuming, just based on just a little bit of knowledge and all that. So I don't know how much we'll save on that. I don't know if 100,000 they would go for. I think they might go for 50. I don't see 100,000 more, just because let's just do a referendum, because they do referendum some other stuff, and they can put it in there. To our members, I don't know who's all running again for.
Just me.
If it's just Christie, I don't know what the 2 new members, what they would do, what their opinion is on it. So it's really unknown, but I think we really, the starting point is figure it out from Madison, how much that really would cost. I could go 50-50, I guess, depends on the members. Would be.
Well, you've got Kathy Thomas's vote for sure.
Yeah,
Go for it, Addie.
So one question, I think our conversation with Metro for me right now has really expanded kind of my vision of what kind of bus service we could provide here in Monona. Like I hadn't even imagined having something as cool as, you know, one bus pass for everybody and cell phone bus passes and electric buses in real time. Like they're giving us all of this good juicy stuff. So I wanted to kind of ask the question, if we pull off some of these constraints that we're really talking about, so if we wave our magic wand and say we're in a land of like infinite money and ability to get people to commit, what would would we basically do all of these things? Like keep the express service, partner with Madison, and run our lifts?
no, we would have the express, would be just the lift, is that what I hear?
I don't think so.
So the
Well,
express,
I guess I'm saying like if money wasn't an issue, like would we do all of these things?
Would the express be obsolete? I don't know.
I would think so.
I would think so as well, but
Mhm.
The Metro.
I
and
kind of
like-
wish Jim was here because he's like the person who
know.
should really weigh in on it.
driver shortage, that's why he's not here tonight.
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, personally, the express would be obsolete because you wouldn't really need it because they'd be going through the city during the day for those peak hours.
Yeah.
My opinion.
All of this is to say, Diane, we will keep you involved in the conversations. This is a big deal for all of us. So, you know, don't think that we're gonna, Doug already said it, but don't think we'll get so carried away that we'll just, you know, throw away that very necessary component of our service provision. But hopefully, you know, we can have it all. Have our cake and eat it too.
Diane, do I have your email address anywhere? I was hoping to just email you and pick your brain about
I'll
something
send it
kind
to
of
you,
unrelated.
Addie. I'll
Okay,
send it
thank
to you,
you.
Addie.
If somebody could just do an introduction from emails, thank you.
And I mean, I feel like I trust that you will make the right decision. Enough of you have expressed that we're going to keep the seniors, secure and safe and able to move around in Monona. So I appreciate that. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Totally unrelated topic. It's around therapy dogs. So I just wanted to get in touch. Knowing
Hey,
that-
actually, can you keep me CC'd on that? I would be just keep me involved in that conversation. Okay, great.
Well, can I ask a quick question, Diane? Like, so if we had to scale back the lift service to like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday to make the numbers work, is that doable or is that not, that's not doable? Like it needs to be maintained where it's at.
Well, then they can only go places Monday, Wednesday,
Oh.
Friday. So they use the lift for grocery shopping, doctor's appointments. I have volunteers at the senior center that use the bus. So those volunteers just can't come on those days. So, I mean, it is their primary source of transportation. So I guess that's the choice of Monona. Do you want to tell our seniors you can you can move around 3 days a week out of 7? So of course they won't be happy, like who wants to have less service? So and I think we're getting more people who use the bus because it has a great reputation. The drivers are very easy to work with. They're good to our seniors. So yeah, so would we survive? Yeah, probably. Those seniors on limited incomes then might have to take a cab. That would cost them $30. One of my seniors lives in Madison, right behind Walgreens, and it was $18 to get to the senior center to volunteer. It breaks my heart. Like you're volunteering your time and it's costing you $18 to take a cab. So But, that's just my 2 cents. So
She can call a lift for that.
she's a Madison resident. So she lives like across from La Follette.
Let me know her name, because we can work with man, or the lift.
Okay, sounds good.
So right there,
Yeah.
it's in, because
That's a-
Admiral is Winona, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk to them if it's something that you think you need, so I can talk to the first student on that.
Yeah, her car was just in the shop. So, I said, are you not driving
Okay.
anymore? She said, no, my car was in the shop. So, yeah, but thank you.
All right, so just in the interest of time, I don't want to cut this conversation short if others have points, but it sounds like we have some, we have a plan of action. We have some items that we would like to fulfill with Mark and Madison Metro and First Student, and a plan to just sort of get I don't know, boots on the ground. I don't want to use whatever, military, not a military term, get moving, get a fire going next month, and really start digging into this. But if, just in the interest of time, I think I'll move on to our next agenda items if that works for the commission. Okay. All right. So we're going to backtrack here to the ridership report under unfinished business.
Yeah, so just so you kind of look at, I guess, a summary from 2012 to 2021. Last 3-4 months, we've been getting like the 400s, 477, 488, 46. So, we're averaging about 23 per day. So 12 morning, 12 in the afternoon, working by that. The individual days, you can see that it does drop off in the evening because of the loop issue right now, I think. So there's a little bit there, but the express, as you can see, October, November, you get 538 and 503, and 538, 503 or somewhere, that's back to the kind of pre-COVID numbers right there, So they are starting to get better and better. So the lift is being used often.
As for Express, Mark, I just wanted to double check. I'm seeing on the, like, how many people ride which loop per day, the last 2 pages of the report.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some big numbers, 17, 14, 13, 15 riders on the bus. Remind me again, what's the maximum capacity of the bus? Have we been maxing out the capacity on that PM loop because of the missing driver?
When you get to like the 17th, you're right around the maximum. I think they remember the exact
19.
19. Yeah.
Okay.
That's-
And is that capacity still limited because of COVID or anything, or is that like filling the bus with bodies?
No, they're just going on. So there's no
Okay.
COVID restrictions.
Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of, for me, as far as I understand, the policy and everything we have with First Student, like, they can't overload the buses. So we
Yeah.
might be getting to occasionally times where it's a possibility that riders might not be able to get on the bus and ride home,
Right.
which is concerning. So it's a good thing to have because you want buses at capacity, but you don't want buses, turning people away.
We have 119 on the second to last page.
Yeah.
And a couple 19s, 3 19s on the page. But yeah.
Well, that's total. For
Oh, the total.
you. Yeah, it's just-
Oh, got it. Not for the-
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, kind of the update for the next one, the pursuit update. I did talk to them.
Sorry, Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to backtrack quickly. I forgot to I forgot to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Just want to knock that off so I don't forget.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Any corrections or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, all right, go for it, Mark. Thank you. Moving on to the first student update.
Yeah, so I been working with First Student. They have 2 interviews coming up. So they did finally get some applications. They thought they'd be okay, just based on their resume. But it's the second job for some of these, for both of them, so they were a little concerned about that. So they'll be interviewing, I believe, early next week. They'll be interviewing them. So they'd let me know based on that. I did talk to them about, what would happen if we did move up to loop 1 and 3. The big issue would be take away, the only way they could do it is we take away from the lift. So, you lose a little over an hour the lift time. So what's more important right now is the lift, or is it time on the express? So that's kind of the big dilemma, and they're like, well, 2 and 3 doesn't affect the lift at all. So 2 and 4 which do not affect the lift service.
Okay, any other comments on that? Keep us posted about the interviews. That'll be exciting to just hear and make sure that we're kind of restoring things to as they were. All right. Item C under unfinished business, discussing potential committee contributions or suggestions to the city's ongoing and expanding DEI initiatives. I think we've had a big one tonight, which is just accommodation of seniors and people with mobility issues in our future planning for our transit system. Anyone else?
I just think generally, if we keep improving our service, we're facilitating equity in our community. So I see our mission as equity.
I think, after you,
Go ahead.
well, okay, I was gonna say, with that new development proposed on East Broadway, knowing that the bus 16 is not gonna take that stretch of East Broadway, but it does go to the Dutch Mill Park and Ride, which is fairly close, but there is no sidewalk. The sidewalk does end basically at that gas station right there. Actually, is there a sidewalk on the Menard side?
That's it.
There is, but it's that crossing of Stoughton Road is really tough. So I think it's something we really need to be cognizant of is, do we keep pushing Madison Metro to take a bus down 16 or push 16 down Broadway? It's obviously going to cruise down West Broadway. So is it that much harder to get them to go down East Broadway? It seems fairly critical, and just with knowing there's 2 large clinics there, maybe those clinics could kick in some funding. I don't know. Walmart did that for a while.
Good idea.
I think we have to look at the map, because they're going eastbound, right? Or if they're going eastbound, pick them up. I don't know if they.
He said the bus would not go on East Broadway at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't, 16 does not go to the park and ride either.
He said he'd have one route that does come down Stoughton Road, goes to the Park and Ride, and then goes back up. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
but it's not Route 16.
Right, it's a different route.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
it's-
11.
Yeah.
Christy, another thing that we could consider is, so the sidewalk issue was raised, right, when we talked about the housing development. So that may be something that we just want to keep ears and eyes on, as well as a potential assist. But I do agree that that would be an important consideration for us to try to kind of push forward with Madison Metro.
Yeah.
Addie, you had something. And then
Yeah,
I'll-
I just wanted to share with you guys that Christy, thank you, introduced me to Catherine Orr, who is one of the members of that DEI task force. And I've been able to talk with her and a couple of her colleagues on a few occasions, kind of supporting them, thinking about how they're going to evaluate and what recommendations and stuff they're going to make. And it sounds like one of the pieces of their plan is to look for different organizations that are operating in Monona that and not businesses, like community organizations that have different perspectives on DEI. And we might actually be able to help that committee by having us, I mean, we aren't the diversity, but we really understand a little bit better about the diversity issues and inclusion issues, and might be able to give them some advice on how transit inequity, equality, community building, et cetera, how those pieces can fit together. So we might actually have something to contribute to them as part of their listening that they're going to be doing.
Great. I would also say, you know, Diane, now I thought that we had given hard copies of surveys to the senior center
We did, yeah.
about,
We did.
okay. So, but just that, I think that's something that we should keep in mind. You know, she raised the issue that it was difficult for members of the senior center community to access and take the survey. So I think just something to keep in the back of our minds if we're trying to disseminate information or collect information in the future. It sounds like we might need to work just a little bit more diligently to touch that population. So, and that's all I have on this point then.
Maybe Molly, if you run into Diane anytime soon, maybe mentioning that we did drop paper copies off at Monona Meadows.
Okay, that's, yes,
sorry,
great.
Monona
Sorry, it
Hills.
wasn't at the senior center. that's
Monona
right.
Hills it was.
Mhm.
And I think they turned in, I think it was 39 surveys.
Yeah, they turned in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, because when she said that, I thought I had remembered that we had tried, you know, we'd taken that extra step, and I can't remember whose suggestion it was, possibly you, Christy, so thank you for that.
Because I dropped them off and I picked them up.
Yeah, we
so I-
did. I didn't want
There
to
you have it.
work with their-
Superstar committee member, commission member.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's great, and I will let her know. I think that would be
Okay.
important. I'm surprised that she wasn't aware, but obviously there are, you know, communication errors here. If there's nothing else, then I think we're ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, third, I'll third.
Oh, gotcha.
Third it. Make sure we note
Yeah,
in
third.
the meeting minutes that Doug has thirded.
Third.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the meeting is adjourned. See you next month. Let's do this thing, folks.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Aye. Oh
holidays.
yeah, back at ya.